Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. Um, Promise I'm not going to make a habit of this, but I've got to respond to an op-ed. Not really an op-ed, it's a story. But it was sent to me by two people who knew the woman that was attacked by this story. And when I read it, I got a little irritated. And then when I read the author's bio, I felt like I have to respond. And I think that it's something that everybody in this country should pay attention to. So the story goes like this, and I'll link it so you can read it for yourself. He's at a county fair, and he's walking from the bathroom with his daughter, and the national anthem comes on. And like good God-fearing Americans, they remove their hat, cover their hearts, and stand there until they notice that some social justice warrior has taken a knee. And he says he felt rage. Rage. Man, that's a strong word. Rage. But luckily for her, her boyfriend was with her. And her boyfriend's a big guy, covered in tattoos. And he's staring people down. Staring people down. It's almost like this woman's going to get attacked by people who feel rage for kneeling. It's interesting. And this man who felt rage over this actually called her a petulant child in his little story, because he says that he knew she wasn't there to protest, she was just there to get attention. Well, Mr. Lecturer on Patriotism, that's what's in your bio, right? What's the purpose of a protest again? Is it not to get attention? So you can then petition for redress of grievances? It's in the Constitution of the United States. I'm very curious to hear your lectures on patriotism. Patriotism is a lot more than standing and looking at the flag. That's right. For a gentleman who's very upset about disgraceful flag etiquette, where should you have been looking? You shouldn't have been looking at the crowd, should you? Shouldn't you have been looking up at that flag? Pretty sure that's what you should have done. Anyway, and then as it goes on, he says that we stand for the flag and we kneel for the fallen. And that, that's a common statement. But see, it bothered me coming from him because it raised this question, and I need an answer for it. If you watch this, I would really appreciate you telling me exactly what's going on here, because I can only think of two options. Now, maybe there's another one, but I can only think of two. Mr. Spokesman for Law Enforcement today. Either you're incompetent, because, that certainly sounds like a PR job, right? Spokesman for Law Enforcement today. Are you telling me that you have no idea what this protest is over? You don't know that they are kneeling for the fallen? Those felled by your brethren in the thin blue line? Those unjustly murdered? You don't know that? If you don't, you're really bad at your job. And if you do, it's almost like you're crafting a propaganda piece and you're leaving out some pretty important details, using slogans to try to manipulate the feeble-minded. Certainly what it seems like. Now again, maybe there's a third option. If there is, I'd love to hear it. But I can only think of the two. But, I'm not a smart guy. So maybe you can clue me in. Sir, patriotism is not doing what the government tells you to. Mr. Lecturer on Patriotism. In fact, the original patriots of this country did the exact opposite. That's how the country got founded. Patriotism is correcting your government when it is wrong. When the original patriots, those people that I'm certain you speak of in your lectures, spoke of their country, they were not talking about the United States. It didn't exist. 1787, right? 1776. They weren't talking about the U.S. They were talking about their country, the countryside, their community. For you, that's that woman in the crowd that you're attacking. That's who you're supposed to show loyalty to. Mr. Spokesman for Law Enforcement today, who is berating a woman for exercising her constitutionally protected rights. That's kind of chilling, isn't it? I'm assuming at some point in time you were a cop. Did you take an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States? Because everything that she's doing is protected by it. You know, after 9/11, I had the pleasure of watching a conversation between two people. One of them was a full bird colonel, and the other one was he was a civilian, but he's in a suit. And at the time, I don't know if you remember, but back then, man, everybody, if you were in a suit, you had that American flag lapel pin on. And he didn't. He didn't. And the colonel asked him, and he wasn't accusatory about it because he knew the guy and knew his history. And he asked him, you know, why aren't you wearing an American flag lapel pin? And the man responded by saying that he believed that patriotism was displayed through actions, not worship of symbols. Man, that's a good answer, right? I mean, that's not something you just come up with on the spot because you get caught without your pen. That's a good answer. And, you know, you could think that it's just some silly answer from somebody who doesn't really know anything. He was a civilian. He was a civilian. He was a spooky civilian, no, if you catch my meaning. This man served this country for 30 years doing god-awful stuff. In fact, he was in Afghanistan the first time against the Soviets. I think he's got a pretty good idea of what patriotism is. Maybe you should talk to him before you give your next lecture. I think that would be advisable. And if you contact me, I'll put you in contact with him. I'm sure that he would have some things to say to you as well. So I'm sorry, this is kind of a personal video, but it's a good teaching tool. I hope that people understand there is a very marked difference between nationalism, which is what this gentleman is talking about, and patriotism. And you closed your little temper tantrum by, well, I'm not going to use the exact words, but you basically told her that she could kiss your American rear. Well, sir, you can kiss my patriotic behind, okay? Y'all have a good night.